Fiancé cheated on me with a married man while she was away for work. Background of my relationship: my ex, F, 27, and I, M, 28, had been together for roughly 11 years. We were extremely codependent because I depended on her for emotional support and she was reliant on me for everything. We had been living together for 5 years, and I was the breadwinner. She had no job and only had a couple of short jobs spread throughout those 5 years living with each other. She was extremely anxious and depressive, so she couldn't bring herself to get a job because she wanted to explore the arts, and she kept feeling like she wouldn't be able to do what she wants when gets a job. She was a good person, accepted me for who I am, was there to support me for all my endeavors. And I tried my best to be there for her despite being so stressed and tired about finances, my own issues, and thinking of ways to get her out of her 5-year slump. Things started to go on a decline during the last 2 years of our relationship because we couldn't seem to understand each other. Me with her anxiety and depression, and her not understanding the stress of being the breadwinner and feeling like a caretaker. I feel bad for being naive about anxiety because when we broke up, I developed generalized anxiety disorder. I wish I knew what I knew now. Maybe I could have helped her more back then. How things ended: she finally accepted a short stint that required her to be on the road for a month and a half. It was a completely foreign job for her, and that was the first time we were separated for that long. She confessed to me one week in that she made out with a coworker, a married man. They both knew they were in relationships. I was devastated. All the more so because she didn't feel sorry for it. We had a few stints of sexual exploration before, but they were with consent. We were still in a monogamous relationship. She said she was considering making him a duck buddy, that she liked his body. That she just really liked him. I spiraled into deep depression and developed extreme anxiety. She never gave me words of reassurance that things would be okay for us. So with every week that passed, I became more unstable. I was alone at home, paranoid and distraught. And I had to wait for a month more before she'd return. I tried to keep it together, but with every phone call, she just kept disappointing me. Telling me she still wants to talk to the guy, be friends. That they were both attracted to each other. That she needed time to think. That work was just so stressful and tiring. It went on until I couldn't wait for her to come back anymore. She had 1 more week away, but I was going insane. I needed for her to tell me that she wanted me. So I stupidly said in one angry phone call that I couldn't wait for her anymore, that I wanted to break up. For me, it was a challenge. I wanted for her to fight for us. But she just gave up and said okay. After that phone call, I thought we were in limbo. But when she came back from work, she said she thought we were broken up already. But eventually agreed to think about things, to think about the relationship, and not to entertain anybody. A week into it, I noticed that she was distant, uncomfortable with my touch and my attention, because when we were on the decline prior to her job, I hadn't trouble being present. I confronted her about it, and she told me she didn't love me anymore and there was no chance for us to get back together. It was like she stomped all over my already broken heart. It drove me mad. I interrogated her about the details of their affair. What she did with him, why, and so, and so. The things she revealed were devastating. I couldn't believe that she would do those things to me. She insists that they didn't have closeness, but they've touched each other. Said other things that shredded my even more. But I felt like she wasn't being completely honest. So when I had the chance, I checked her phone, which was actually mine because I lent it to her, and discovered more details in their chat. Everything was so disgusting. Nothing was overtly sexual, but she was apparently still talking to him and seeing him and being all lovey-dovey the entire week. We agreed to take things slow. I gave her a chance to come clean, but she straight up lied to me and kept saying she was only talking to him about work-related things. When told her I knew everything and read everything, she got mad at me. But she still stayed at my place. Things got worse between the both of us for another month because she hadn't moved out. I tried my best to talk her out of it. Begged, pleaded, threw tantrums. But she kept on the affair. I couldn't understand how heartless she was. She saw how much weight I lost. She saw how it gravely affected my mental health. But she just kept on being selfish. She even went to another out-of-town trip with him, all the while leaving her family behind, despite her sibling being confined in the hospital for cancer. I was losing my mind, because aside from her seemingly not giving a crap about me, I was more present than her for her family. I was even taking care of her dog. Words were said and things were done because I was so mentally unstable. And feel bad about it and already apologized. But she was just off in her bubble, escaping reality. So when I got insider info that her and the guy already talked about arrangements, I totally lost it. I sent the wife screenshots of the messages that I got to save. The wife thanked me for it. When my ex found out about it, she got so mad. Told me she hated me. Asked if I thought about her. How it would affect her. Questioned if I truly cared about her. Of course I do, that's why I spent a whole month trying to talk her out of it. I let her stay at my place still. Still took care of her. All that stuff. But she acted like the victim. I couldn't believe that the person I loved could turn out this way. She didn't move out immediately. It took her 2 more weeks to move out because stupid me tried to make it up to her, tried to show her that I do truly care about her and love her, by taking care of her. But she became so mean. She became obsessed with the messages, kept demanding to see it. It reached a point that she physically offended me twice out of anger and desperation. But I still let her stay for a couple of days more. On her last day at my place, I was able to check her phone again. Come to discover that she had gotten in touch with the guy again and saw each other several times while she was still at my place. She even had the gall to ask me to pick her up after they saw each other. I was duped yet again. But I was too blinded by my hope. I am still. I wish I had more self-worth and dignity. Because I know that despite not being the best partner and being a loony when she came back, I don't deserve this treatment. But it's so hard to get rid of my attachment, my care, and my love. I still love her dearly, and so I still feel the pain of betrayal. I miss her comfort. I miss the good parts of our relationship, and I still grieve and am regretful for not being able to provide her the emotional support that she needed when the relationship was crumbling. Maybe that's why I still feel bad and am affected by her hatred. I only want her to feel and know that I truly love her and care for her. That all I ever wanted for her was to be better. And now that she feels betrayed because I ratted them out, I feel like a bad person. In hindsight, I should have just walked away immediately. But I truly believed that the wife had the right to know the truth. I couldn't fathom the thought that her husband would lay beside her every night and dream of another woman. That her husband would even mention his wife's name in their chats and would plan things with my ex when she's away. To invite my ex to their home when she's away. I couldn't live with that on my conscience. To hold their decked-up secret. It was really more about revealing the truth than revenge, although I would be a liar if I said there wasn't a tinge of spite in the mix. I truly feel bad for the wife. And I still feel bad because my ex and the guy may still be in touch because I uncovered nude chats fairly recently. I choose not to send the new ones though because I feel like I've done my part already. Sending another message will only make my healing progress regress. My ex would probably hound me again. So, did I do the wrong thing for telling the wife the truth? Wife's best friend told me that my wife is cheating. Almost 4 months ago, my best friend's wife tells me my wife and her husband are having an affair. My STB ex-wife was careful. He was not. OBS gave me lots of proof, including sexting and pictures. Once I learned the affair has been going on for a few years. I was done. Call logs and texts dated back when I was still working 16-hour days earning my engineering degree, including nights that were supposedly girls' nights out and I was at home watching kids. Her friends were all cheating on their husbands and covering for each other. OBS decided to reconcile purely out of lack of financial means to leave AP. I chose to leave my WS. I got a lawyer and proceeded to make a plan before confronting her. Once I had everything I needed, I kicked my wife out of my house, changed the locks, split the accounts, and served her papers. She has zero claim to the house, and I had movers ship her stuff to her parents. She's fallen on hard times since we split. She's had to get a place with college-age roommates and start working 2 jobs. Today my parents and her parents had their own intervention of sorts, wanting us to reconcile for the kids. The kids are fine. They're with me 90% of the time. Our parents have been listening to her sob stories while she minimizes the fact she was banging my best friend this whole time. She's super sorry, so it's okay. They railed about the way I publicly outed her affair and threw her out. They called it immature and vindictive. Furthermore, they think me staying in contact with the OBS is inappropriate, despite being friends with her and her family for over a decade. They even accused us of having an inappropriate relationship despite having zero proof of anything remotely inappropriate. We are not having sex. We are not kissing. We are not dating. We babysit kids for each other, drink coffee and talk, and exchange non-sexual favors. I save her a plate of food if her kids stay for dinner. A few times a week she's in class. I'm the only family OBS has in our state since her family has distanced themselves from her after her husband got caught and has been sent to prison for sex with minors, including OBS underage cousin, and embezzling money from real estate investors shortly after he was outed for cheating. I'm beside myself. I feel gutted and betrayed all over again. Even though I've told her it's over and tried my best to go minimal contact, she just can't take no for an answer and now has everyone on her side. I'm not taking her back. She's just sorry she got caught and her AP went to prison and lost all that money. She's not sorry for betraying me for years while playing me for a complete fool. I worked for years to give her and I a good life and I got crap on. She'd still be ducking him in a hotel room or his car on her back had she not been caught by his wife. My STB ex-wife also made the accusations OBS outed her to get revenge on her and steal her life. My WS is now saving herself for when I take her back. OBS life has been a big train wreck. She and her kids were penniless and almost homeless since Dipcrap had their assets seized. I've given enough to make sure that didn't happen. She's lost most of her family through this. None of this was her fault and she was just as blindsided as I was. She's been a true friend and a confidant through all of this. Comment 1. There is a weird gap in your story. How did your best friend end up in prison? Tell your parents to mind their own business. And that if they do not mind their own business, they won't be seeing their grandchildren. Your STBXW made her bed, she gets to live in the filth she built. Original poster's answer. He was having sex with OBS underage cousin. She came forward after she found out about his affair with my STBXW. Several other women have came forward and pressed charges as well. He's also a real estate developer. While he was in jail, his panicked real estate investors discovered he had been spending and stealing an estimated $500,000 by paying for repairs under the table by unlicensed workers, not paying taxes on anything, cutting corners and charging for work he didn't do, charging literally everything to his business card not work-related, not getting building approvals and inspections, etc. So he'll get out about the same time he gets a senior citizen discount. The crazy part is he's been doing this for over 10 years and never got caught. Everyone thought he was making bank because he was good at his job. Even his investors were surprised. Comment 2. Tell them to kick rocks. Unless they contribute some way to your life like in a monetary manner, their opinion is not valid. You have to do what's best for you and your children. Original poster's answer. I agree, and I have. I reaffirmed in no way, shape, or form will there be another chance. They're still the grandparents of my children, and this isn't their fault. It's crappy of them to take her side though, and pressure me into an outcome they want for their own reasons without consideration for the hell I've been through. Comment 3. Damn, I almost hope you end up with OBS at this point, just to make the point to everyone else to duck off. The only ones you owe a response to are our parents. But they are being stupidly ridiculous. Set them straight alone, without her stupid parents, explain the facts as they are as you've laid them out. Explain how incredibly inappropriate it was for them to think they have the right to tell you what to do with your life or to trust the words of someone else instead of coming straight to you. And then tell them to cut the crap out, or they are at risk of being cut off from you and their grandchildren. This will be the last that you speak of any event related to this, and if they ever bring it up again, expect it to be the last conversation you have with them for a long time. Original poster's answer. You're right. They crossed a lot of boundaries and stepped into my marriage, and I'm very upset they stuck their nose in without getting all the facts. I hope they snap out of this and realize it's never going to happen. I've been diplomatic, but firm. I guess time will tell what kind of relationship we end up with. Still, they're the grandparents, so I really hope they choose to simply accept and move on and not make this more difficult. I'm doing my best to keep the relationship intact and close with their grandchildren. Found out wife cheated with my best friend. My wife, my best friend, the love of my life since 10th grade, cheated on me with my best friend. I am absolutely shattered. To give some backstory, me and my wife, I'll call her M, have been dating since high school. When I met her in 9th grade, she was dating T, my best friend in this story. At that time, me and T were okay friends, although not that close. After meeting her, I became quickly infatuated with my wife. All of freshman year of high school, I would pray that her and T would break up so that I would have a chance. Eventually, it happened, and in 10th grade I befriended her and asked her out. Our relationship was one of the best things that happened to me all of high school, and her company sustained me through what was overall a pretty crappy 4 years. Seeing as they were just freshmen when they dated, T didn't see all that bothered that I was dating his ex, even giving me his blessing when I asked if it was okay. By senior year, we were close buddies, and there was absolutely no reason to believe that he held any animosity toward me for getting with his ex-girlfriend from freshman year. Us three all went to the same local state school for college, where I kept my relationship with my wife and my close friendship with T. There were times when it became blatantly clear that T was attracted to my wife, like when I caught him staring at her during parties and when one of my other friends told me that T had confided in him a desire to duck my wife. While that bothered me, my wife is very attractive, so I understood that other guys, including my friends, will inevitably be attracted to her, and as long as they don't make a move, I don't really care. Overall though, it was very clear he was heavily attracted to her, and over the years we have been friends he has always made sly comments about her attractiveness and about how lucky I was, once even commenting on her shape. Fast forward to over a decade later to this year. Me and my wife now have 2 beautiful children, a son and a daughter, and are married, while T is recently divorced from his ex-wife. It was a pretty brutal divorce, so recently over the past few months, T had been in a deep depressive state. I wanted to be there emotionally for him, but simply couldn't because the demands of my job as well as mental problems I had been dealing with myself consumed all my time. My wife stepped in and helped as he was going through his stuff. They had never been that close since college, and my wife disliked T's womanizing tendencies, but after T's divorce and my wife being there for him, I noticed a definite change in their attitude for each other. Whenever T would come over to chill with me, my wife would always sit next to him as well as laugh at his jokes, as well as go out of her way to ask when he was coming over next time. I noticed this and it bothered me, but didn't want to ask because I didn't want to come off as possessive, as well as liked how T had someone to be there for him when I couldn't. It continued to the point where my wife started to go over to T's house to hang out with him while I was at work. Eventually around September I snapped and told my wife that I was uncomfortable with how much time they were spending together. Instead of getting mad or calling me controlling, she apologized and said she had gotten caught up in the friendship and would respect my boundaries. I asked her if she was attracted to T, and she admitted that yes, she felt some attraction and T had flirted with her, but he had never made a move and that they had never done anything. Just this news struck my heart, and I told my wife I didn't want her to hang out with T anymore. She agreed and apologized for her actions. For the next couple weeks everything seemed fine, with the exception that I started avoiding T. At the beginning of this month, however, me and my wife got into a blow-up fight over financial issues. She's been struggling to find work since the pandemic has been winding down, and despite a very flexible labor market, for some reason no one would hire her. My job is not enough to support a 4-person household, so we had been in a lot of stress financially. The argument got so bad that she walked out and didn't return until several hours later. I didn't ask where she had been, but she seems almost disheveled and had an odd look on her face. Despite this, I never questioned her about her whereabouts, as I really at that point didn't feel like talking to her. Now fast forward to Thanksgiving, where my entire family, as well as some of my friends including T, who at this point I haven't talked to in over a month, were invited. The conversation over dinner was going well until politics was brought up. Me and T are on completely opposite sides of the political spectrum, him being a hardcore Trumper and me being a liberal. Please don't argue over politics in the comments section. Generally we avoided discussing politics in our relationship, but for some reason today he seemed adamant to discuss it. It quickly turned heated, with the conversation turning personal, with T yelling that my liberalism was a sign of my timidness and failure to be a man. I asked him where that had come from, and he responded that I couldn't even satisfy my wife. This completely shocked me, and whole dinner table as me and my wife never discussed our sex life in front of anyone, and the rest of the dinner was fairly awkward and full of silence. After dinner, when everyone had begun leaving, I confronted my wife and T. She started at the ground while he stared me in the eyes and admitted to ducking my wife on November 4th, the day we had the blow-up fight. He said she came over seeking advice, and they ended up hugging, with him making a move. He said she initially resisted and said it was wrong, but eventually gave in and they did it. The whole time my wife was silent and staring at the floor. Instead of feeling anger, I felt utter shock and couldn't get a word out. After a few minutes of silence, T just left and I was alone with my wife. She broke down crying, saying that it's the worst mistake of her life, and that the stress of my work, taking care of our children, as well as my personal issues, which lead to me being non-attentive to her, made her feel undesired, and that T's attention and flirting made her feel good. She said she was never planning to do anything with T, even though he had hinted at wanting to sleep with her when they hung out, and was just going to use him for attention while I was absent. She said it was the weakness of the moment after our fight that led her to have closeness with him. I told her to get out of my face and that I needed time alone to think. She went up to her room and came down to try to talk and plead with me, but every time I screamed at her to get out of my face. Now sitting here writing this, I am absolutely devastated. The thought of my wife sleeping with another man tears me apart, to the point where I've never felt pain this harsh. I want to stay with her as she is the love of my life, but I don't know what to believe. Did they really have sex only once? Was it really an innocent mistake because of stress? I don't know. I want to stay with my wife more than anything though, so what are your guys' thoughts on this?